Morning, welcome to our last Sunday school adult class for the month of February here, 2024. Get our screen share going. We are going through the Bible story. We are in the in-between time after the age of the patriarchs that ended with with Joseph and Job. We are in the lifetime of Moses now before the Exodus. And so we will be picking up, refreshing Exodus chapter 2. We have arrived at the year 1500 BC. We're in Middle Bronze Age, 2A. China's still being led by their Emperor Taiwu of their Shang Dynasty. And we're getting Egypt and other related area timelines and chronology from Egyptologist David Roll. So over in Egypt, while Taiwu is the Emperor of China in the Shang Dynasty, Egypt is now being led by Pharaoh Sobek-Hotep V. This guy here. Now it was, God bless you, it was Sobek-Hotep IV who married the daughter of the Pharaoh of the North, Pantjenu, and she was the one who discovered Moses and brought her into the household to be raised by her and her husband, Sobek-Hotep IV. Same guy who issued the baby boy death decree is the one who raised Moses. Well, he's passed on now. There have been two short-reign pharaohs. We don't even have their names in between. And now we've been under this guy, Sobek-Hotep V. 13th dynasty in the Egypt's second intermediate period after the Middle Kingdom high point with Joseph's pharaohs and before the New Kingdom comes along with Ramses and King Tut and all that. So we'll get to that as we go. Babylon is being ruled by Hammurabai's son, Samsu-iluna, and he's not really able to hold on to the kingdom that his father had. Over in Egypt, the Lord's people are dealing with not great times in Egypt. In the line of Christ, through the tribe of Judah, we have alive right now Ram, about the age of 103, his son Aminadab, about the age of 44. Here in Exodus chapter 2, we'll read verse 10, which tells us, the child grew, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, he became her son, she named him Moses and said, because I drew him out of the water. So we'll be in Exodus, but we're also going to be toggling with Acts chapter 7, where Stephen gives the spiritual behind the scenes of the history of the Lord's people. Acts chapter 7, verses 21 and 22, Stephen proclaims some very important stuff. Acts 7:21, after he'd been put outside, Pharaoh's daughter took him away, nurtured him as her own son. Verse 22 is very key. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was proficient in speaking and action. And we saw that with Artapanus' records and Josephus's records outside the Bible of Moses when the kingdom of Cush invaded Egypt and chased him all the way to the northern delta. Moses, 18 years old or so, ended up leading the army and pushed them right back down. In fact, expanded Egypt's southern boundary border 124 miles further south. Set up that building, that Western Difafa building that we saw there. And that everyone's recognizing, wow, what's this Egyptian designed building doing way down here in Kush or Ethiopia, Sudan, that area. And then there was also a statue of his stepdad, Pharaoh Sobek-Hotep IV, on the island of Argos there. Well, what's the statue of Pharaoh doing way down here? Well, it was kind of practice. He's not the first Pharaoh to do this, to where the statue would be there and the attitude would be, that statue represents me. You defend this area and this land like I'm right there with you. And so that would be a symbol and representation and reminder of that. Flag, like a flag, very great point. Like a flag on an embassy, absolutely. We guard that flag, and that's why those flags are targets, because you take that down, you take down the morale, you take down their symbol, all that stuff. Yeah. So by 1500 BC, Moses would be 26 years old right now. So as we're counting down to the Exodus, which is in less than 50, or just over 50 years from now, some events we will take a look at. We get a new Pharaoh in Egypt. So this guy is no longer with us. Our new Pharaoh is a guy named Iayib. succeeds Sobekotep IV. He reigns for 11 years, starting in 1500. Now, with the life of Moses before the Exodus, we shared the one story that came through Josephus about Moses and Cush, and explaining how Moses got his Cushite bride, that his siblings, Aaron and Miriam, would fuss at him later for having a Cushite bride. Well, we saw where he got that Cushite bride through that exchange there. There's another story about Moses, maybe not as historically accurate. It involves the island of Bahrain, of all places. So let's see. Over here is that Western Difafa building we were talking about, that we were looking at. That was set up there. Kind of crumbled around the outside, but that's it. So now we're going to go to Bahrain. Zoom out from there. Yeah, we're going a ways out. So see how far south that is from the delta? Yeah. So Bahrain, so this is the Sinai Peninsula. I think a few weeks ago, I accidentally called that Saudi Arabia. No, this is Saudi Arabia here. All that Saudi Arabia, that's the Sinai Peninsula there. And Egypt, Sinai Peninsula, Saudi Arabia. And then Jordan to the north. So here's Saudi Arabia. And there's Yemen, where the Houthis are and all that stuff. There's Oman over here. That right there is the island of Bahrain. So what does Moses have to do with this island of Bahrain? Yeah, it does kind of. It's this island right here. Yeah. Yeah. So here's what Egyptologist David Rohl has to say about this, this story of Moses. The miracle of Bahrain. Bahrain means the two waters. Bahrain is where salt and fresh water actually meet. You dive off the coast of the north here into the salt water, you'll keep going down, you'll hit fresh water. And so anytime those two waters meet, going back to ancient times, that was considered a holy place. And so Bahrain became the second Eden, the second coming down from where they came down from Eden, and were celebrating the, while they had the fresh water coming down from the mountains into the area of Eden. Here they celebrate that they've discovered fresh water again in this place. And so a lot of things, a lot of names that were up north with Eden were transferred back down here to Bahrain. The Phoenicians are pretty much recognized as coming from Bahrain. A lot of the names of places in Bahrain were transferred over to Phoenicia. And they're famous for being sailors. Well, yeah, sailing around and all that stuff. So anyway, the miracle of Bahrain, as David Rohl tells us, has been known for thousands of years. It's featured in the Quran, where we have our books of the Bible have chapters and verses. They're called surahs, and in Surah 55, Bahrain is mentioned. Moses is transported to the meeting of the two seas with the fresh on the salt in Surah 18. Moses journeyed to Bahrain, according to the Quran, to find someone called El-Qadir, which means the green one, a mysterious holy man who was granted immortality by God. Now, we mentioned it's been a while, but there was someone in the ancient Mesopotamian myths who was granted immortality after a major world event happened. El-Qadir was to be found beside the fountain of the paradoxes of life, the two different waters. Islamic scholars believe that to be Bahrain. El-Qadir, clearly an important figure in Arabic, Near Eastern folklore. This goes back before Islam. The green one is even occasionally referred to as the son of Adam. El-Qadir is not simply a character from children's fables. Seems to have been regarded as a genuine figure from the past, a saint. So much so, he has a holy shrine dedicated to him on an island that is right up here. Boom, boom, boom. This is just south of Kuwait. There's Kuwait right there. Oop, zoom back in here. There is a shrine to El-Qadir right here on this place. And this place has a lot of relics from the original Gulf War Desert Storm of 91. I was looking for that shrine, but I wasn't able to find it. But we do have these images. Yep, again, relics from the 1991 Desert Storm. So this guy, the green one, El Qadir, that Moses apparently went looking for. I was telling Ashley, this actually reminds me of a Stephen King book. There's a door that goes to different places. So there's a shrine here on this island to this guy. But not only is there that, while I was scoping the land for the shrine, I found this. Yes, a camel farm. Did not know, I never thought about camel farming, but apparently, yes, there is camel farming. So if you've never been to a camel farm, I will take you there visually. Yeah.
Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. Everything comes from somewhere. That looks like that feels good. Who's smiling more? Right. He identifies as yeah. There we go.
Similar to a feedlot.
Yeah. I got my water. Where's yours? Yep. So that is the camel farm on this island of Felaka that has apparently a shrine to the green one, El Qadir, this guy that Moses was looking for, who was granted immortality by God. So the shrine is of considerable antiquity, stands on a mound that cannot be excavated because of Islamic law. But this goes back to the cult of the following of this El Qadir guy. Well, again, way before Islam. Islam started 600 years after Jesus. This guy, the green one, El Qadir, had always been regarded as the patron of seafarers, the resident of an island in the Gulf. So who might he be? So there's a shrine to him here. He's said to have ended up on Bahrain, the second paradise. The mortal green one residing at the fountain of life, the place of the mingling of the two waters. Quran references, Arabic tradition are retaining a distant memory of the hero of the flood in Mesopotamian literature, Utnapishtim, who was granted immortality after the flood. And he went on to go to Eden, the land of the living, and was visited by Gilgamesh, Nimrod's great-grandson. In his epic tales, he goes seeking for him to learn the secrets of immortality. He doesn't get it. Then Gilgamesh ends up dying and having a bunch of people sacrificed to die with him, be buried with him. So yeah, so these ancient myths all kind of bleed into each other and have some interaction with each other. So according to the Quran, Moses goes to Bahrain to seek out Noah, who was given immortality. But we know the Bible makes it clear Noah died. 950 years old, I think, something like that. 350 years after the flood when he was 600. So any reactions or questions on that other account of Moses? Yeah.
I have a great question. The patron saint of sailors is Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nicholas. The green one, Saint Nick, yes. All righty. So something else from this time frame of 1500, kind of zoom us out from Egypt and all that. We have in northern Mesopotamia, the kingdom of Mitanni, Hurrians with their horses and chariots and stuff. We're kind of developing things up in the north here. So here's Babylon and the Persian Gulf there in the south. Here's Haran, where Abraham came from. Ur is kind of just off to the side here. It's not in the south like it's commonly thought of. That's a different Ur. So Abraham came from the Haran here on into the Promised Land. But this is the area run by the kingdom of Mitanni. The Hurrian horse folks are there and all that. So around 1500 BC, ballparking, sundials are in use in Egypt. We also have events happening in India. Over in India, writing of their sacred scriptures, the Hindu Vedas, I read some of them in college, take place. So here is India. So there's the Saudi Arabia here, there's Bahrain and the camel farm. Then here we go, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. The equator is further south. It cuts across Africa down here. Yeah.
I think Arabia, but you.
Yeah. And so another thing that happens in India, we have Aryan or Indo-European peoples. Interesting phrase, Indo-European. You think India and Europe have nothing to do with each other, but actually there's an ancient connection. That phrase Indo-European, these people come from Central Asia and overthrow what will become Pakistan, and they invade India, and they bring further elements of Hinduism and impose their own culture and their political system on the locals, the indigenous population, which creates a lot of population movements further south into southern India. Yeah.
When did
Hinduism began closer to the time of Abraham, if not even before that. After of course, the one true faith of the one true God of creation, the earliest separate religion of man from that is Hinduism.
Oh, really?
Yep, it's the oldest religion. Buddhism was from the 600s BC, the time of Jeremiah. So it was Confucianism and Taoism, all those come from that time. Hinduism is the earliest. According to Hinduism, you can be a Christian and still be a Hindu. But according to Christianity, you can't be a Hindu and be a Christian. Basically, Hindu has multiple gods, and God for this, God for that, and it's kind of all good, and you can choose your own adventure, which God you want to focus on of the group of gods, and do your thing.
So that was probably the origin of the idols.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Yeah, Laban's daughters,
Yeah,
when they stole the idols out of their dad's house,
yeah.
to hide them and take them with them, it must have probably.
Yeah, with Nimrod being the leader, Genesis describes him as a mighty hunter. It's said in the sight of God in some translations. It actually, the Hebrew can be better translated, a mighty hunter in opposition to God. And so Nimrod, the leader of all this building of man, secular humanism, origin is founded by Nimrod with the Tower of Babel, all that, and taking the focus off of the creator and putting it on the creation, which will again come up in this morning message. Nimrod really was the pioneer leader of idol worship and all of that. So when we have the dispersion of the Uruk expansion, as it's called, launching out in all directions from this place, from where the Tower of Babel was at the ancient town of Eridu, they took those practices with them. And again, it's interesting to see that China was one of the more faithful places to the one true God. They called him Shangdi in those early days after the Tower of Babel. And they got into other things after that. But we see here with these influences, Hinduism stemming off of that. And so the Tower of Babel in 2552, I believe, is where I put that. So Hinduism would come after that as a spread out from that secession.
So anything referenced before that was just what, a pagan? Because you said it was the oldest, Hindu was the oldest religion.
Yeah.
But what about when they worshiped, the golden calf and all that stuff? Was that?
That was after.
That was after that. Okay.
The golden calf is part of the Exodus, which hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so we're.
Yeah. Now, Egypt, being established by Ham's son Mizraim, Ham's son Cush, before the Tower of Babel, went up into Africa and established Cush in the area of Sudan and Ethiopia. His brother, hey, Robinson's good to have you with us. His brother Mizraim came on up into Egypt. Egypt is called Mizraim. The Egyptians say, I'm El Mizraim, I'm of Mizraim. And so of the two lands, their brother Put went over to Libya, and of course Canaan went on to Canaan. And there's also a connection with Put and Phoenicia as well. And so in Egypt, they had, as we've seen, their pantheon of gods and different ones that are interconnected, but seem contradictory, but it's all kind of under the same umbrella. And so one of their gods is Hathor, the cow goddess. And so there's thought that the calf worship was part of that as well, carryover from their time in Egypt. That's one thought out there. So over here in India, about this time, 1500, a few decades before the Exodus, we've got this folks coming down from the north with their Hinduism, pushing the locals further down south. So just to give us a taste and a flavor of somewhere else, let us go to India. My boss at my day job, let's see, whoops, let me do this. Oop. That's what I forgot to do. Right there. My boss is of Chinese descent and is from Singapore. She told me about a TV show that was pretty cool called Aerial Asia. And it's, drones and whatnot's flying over, and they've got episodes on different areas. First one happened to be Singapore. So Ash and I watched it, and it was pretty amazing. One of the other episodes was India. And Sister Ashley, what was your reaction to seeing the one on India?
I have to react.
Like?
Well, one of the things was just the, I guess for lack of a better word, the air quality. It just looked very heavy. Now, maybe they filmed it on a bad day, and then just so many people, living like literally on top of each other. So is that what you were wondering?
Yeah, or just whatever, whatever kind of struck you or stuck with
Yeah,
you.
well, I thought about, when they talk about us with needing to go, get rid of gasoline cars and stuff. And I'm like, well, but what about, these other countries that don't seem to be doing anything?
Yeah. If America went, on that note, if America
Yeah.
went totally green and in zero fossil fuels, it would make zero difference because we've got China and India and others.
Right. I mean, it was fast. These little things are really fascinating, but it was, how like when you go down to LA, you kind of get that June gloom, that's how I felt watching that. That was like the first thing. And then the next thing was just people, just so many people in slums. They would fly over and it was just.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
I've seen the
everything
movie.
Just look. And I know, do they still have the caste system over there,
I don't think as much
It's
in
not
play
really
anymore.
I know it used to be, you were born into a certain class and you stayed there. So if you were born poor, you could not move up, you couldn't, it just was not how it was done, so a lot of different, different, it was just a different culture.
Beautiful buildings and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Incredible
yeah.
architecture.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Sue Sampat.
Yeah, it's a little John Sandman. She told me the first year that I was a member there, that she was, went into the caste system, not the
Oh.
top, the next one down. She explained some of that to me and she said, but it's going to be ending. The end of this year is the end.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, we had a lady in the book club that was Indian, and when she passed away, she had a dual funeral.
Nice.
She had, and so a lot of, just kind of a funny note, a lot of the quilt ladies that went did not realize they would have to be sitting on the floor for for one half of the service. And so they came back into the club or the shop and they were like, oh, we had to sit down and then we had to get back up, because she had
Old bones. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, because she had a dual service, but they said it was very beautiful. She was a very nice lady.
Right on.
Very
Good
nice
stuff.
lady.
We have also happening around 1500 BC, while this is going on and things are happening in Mitanni in India, we have stuff happening over on the island of Guam. You've ever heard of it? There it is.
They get out there.
They took a boat.
Well, yes.
So here are the Philippines,
But
here's Guam.
seriously though, how would you just would get a
There's
boat
Hong
and
Kong, Taipei.
float around and hope you landed on something?
No,
It's in the water.
Yeah, it's yeah, Guam is this island right here.
they told me in New Zealand, they told me that the island was discovered, it was called the land of the long white cloud. because that was all they could see. So there are a bunch of them from other islands who said, we're gonna go there because we know there's land there. So we
Mhm.
go up there if there wasn't. So they just, they couldn't see where they were going, but they were following where that cloud was, and that's how we discovered it.
Yeah, so here's Malaysia, Indonesia, we've got Australia down here and New Zealand above that, so. So right here is Guam. So what happens with Guam in the year, around the year 1500 during Moses's adulthood? Well, Guam gets inhabited by Comoros who come over from that Malay Peninsula. Here's some shots of Guam. Also in the region, we have, if you've heard of them, if not, you will today, the Northern Mariana Islands, just north of Guam. These are settled by Pacific, they're called Argonauts, going across here. These folks were also the first to settle in Micronesia, which is down over here.
Good.
Yeah, here's something that's on the Micronesia. Not only that, we have the first inhabitants of Palau, also known as Belau, over here. The Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands. They got here coming over from Indonesia and the Philippines. Here's a couple of shots of Palau.
Eric,
Yeah,
so now you've got me thinking, so because these places.
mission accomplished.
Yeah, these places look so remote, right? And you're saying that this is on the timeline.
Yep.
The biblical timeline.
Yep.
So do scientists, do the scientific studies of these very remote places, do they prove that timeline?
Mhm.
So they can't.
This is legit.
They can't say that, oh, well, we have artifacts on Guam that are, 75 million years ago, that there was, some, ancestor that lived on there.
They'll do that too, but what
You
I'm
know
talking,
saying?
oh, absolutely. They'll do that too for the ancient origins, because that fits their dogma. But what I'm presenting here that's happening around the 1500s BC, this is pretty much recognized as happening in that time frame.
Okay,
Now, do they recognize the Exodus in 50 plus years from now? No.
Okay.
But do they even recognize the 13th dynasty of Egypt in this time frame? No. They put that couple hundred years in the past because they've overextended the third intermediate period, and they've got some other errors as well. And so with those errors, they don't see the connection here. But as I'm recognizing the best case of the facts, and that's what I'm presenting as best I've discovered it and understand it.
because for
Yeah.
people to be able to spread like this is, I mean, and I know you did the math where, you showed how fast
Population growth,
the
yeah.
population is, we can reproduce. But.
We're good at that.
For people to spread like this, I mean, that's, like Minnie said, they saw this, these clouds or whatever, and discuss, and had a curiosity, right? Or said, hey, let's go check this out, I mean, I don't even want to go to the grocery store. Let alone go check out a new country.
It's like there was the sudden worldwide dispersion.
Well,
About 2552 BC. Yeah, absolutely, Brother Peter.
I would think, say, so you're born in this manner here and stuff, and you grow up and you get bored, and you know what, I'm going.
Yeah,
You go, because there's nothing, you're not bound to anything. You need to
Yep.
go.
This is true.
And that's what I think they're doing, is people left and wanted to see other things, and there's something out there and kept going.
Not like you were tied down to the house mortgage.
Sister Alyssa, how many of your friends in high school growing up as a kid in Tehachapi, how many of them said, what percentage would you say said, I'm leaving Tehachapi as soon as I graduate high school, I'm out of this, just about all of them.
It's a small world when you go to another
Yeah.
place and you meet somebody that lived in your neighborhood. Hey, way over here, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, so we are about 1,000 years, 1,052 years since the Tower of Babel now.
So yeah, that would be a big dispersion.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
yeah. Everything that happened in world history from AD 100 backwards, we can associate a event of the Bible or the time frame of the Bible where that fits in and see how they connect. Other people?
I got one question.
Yeah.
Okay, and isn't in the Bible, we're not supposed to live our past, but yet we still, it seems like it's still happening. It's like, I see like, they walk for 40 years in the desert. And we're all, the whole world is walking these 40 years in the desert still.
Yes.
Because, how I see it, it's like you said, Trump, and everything is
Yep.
lining up to the same thing that happened.
Yes.
40, a million years ago, or whatever. It's still doing the same thing. I go, is there a pattern here? Is this something that it's God's plan and just, lines up everything?
There's a pattern of human nature is predictable, nothing new under the sun. And if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it. There's also God being a God of order and beauty, and in beauty is patterns. We watched the show called Face Off. It's a makeup contest for, sci-fi and whatnot. And one of the things they talk about is the judges compliment or critique the artists by their success or failure in recognizing the patterns of nature that they're trying to emulate. If they're okay, here's a lizard person. Well, that's not true to the lizard's anatomy or the patterning so there's a recognition in God's creation. It's a creation of pattern. It's a creation of design. It's a pattern of beauty. And so there's that in life, but also patterns in, as we've seen in our Wednesday night studies, patterns in time. And God is like an artist, sometimes an artist of someone who's a painter will put their signature somewhere on the painting in some little spot somewhere. And that's kind of their trademark of them, marking or stamping something as theirs. Well, God uses timestamps as one of his signatures and his biblical patterns. So we can see, just the fact that these things are there, they happen, that is glory to God enough. But God also does things in his timing to where we go, not only is that incredible and beautiful, how could that all happen? But look at the timing it happened in. Wow, that's his, if there's any doubt, that removes all doubt. There it is right there. And it's all as laid out in the scripture for us to understand. So great stuff. So by the year 1498 BC, we're about 90 years since the events of Job. By 1495 BC, the Israelites have been enslaved for 50 years now. By 1491 BC, the Israelites have been in Egypt for 170 years now. So back to Egypt, we get a new pharaoh, Merneferre. He starts to reign in 1490 BC, reigns for 24 years. This is from the Pyramidion or the Benben stone, the cap of a pyramid. So this is all we have. We don't have the pyramid, but we got this cap. Shows the name. So it looks like he possibly did complete a pyramid, maybe somewhere buried over in the necropolis of the city of the dead there in Memphis. We have this because this got confiscated by the Egyptian police in 1911 from robbers. And they found this with the robbers close to Avaris, where the Hebrews are in the land of Goshen. And it's carved with the name of I, shows him offering to Horus, the Lord of Heaven. Horus is actually a name that goes back to Noah. Horus is the far distant one. Noah in the legends, went to live immortality back in the far off land of Eden. So Horus means Noah, basically, the far one. And it's the symbol, the Horus falcon is the symbol of that. So here's I making an offering to Horus. You see the little bird thing on the head there, Lord of Heaven. So this demonstrates that there was a pyramid during his reign. The fact that the pyramid was discovered by the robbers here is important. Egyptologists believe the pyramid does not come from Avaris, but actually from Memphis, where his pyramid must be. So how did it end up here? What probably happened was after the Exodus, the Hyksos came in, and we'll deal with all that and who they are. And some of them are in the Bible. So the Hyksos come in, and what seems to have happened is on their way in, they robbed Memphis and took this with them when they set up their shop in Avaris. where the Hebrews had been. And so that's how this ended up there. But one of the ways we know it's from Memphis is there's a damaged text on it that invokes 4 different gods. 2 of them are Ta and Re Horus. So the cults of those gods are in Memphis. They're not in Avaris. So another indication of that. So that's this guy, Pharaoh I. So there's some stuff from him. Moving right along, we have another event of scripture, 1 Chronicles 7, verse 27. 1 Chronicles 7, verse 27. 1 Chronicles 7:27, not going through a lineage here. Nun, his son, and Joshua, his son. So we have the birth of Joshua, about 1489 BC. Looks like they were fathering the next generation on average of about the age of 20 years old. So Nun, about 20 years old when he fathers Joshua here. Now, as I've mentioned before, looking at this genealogy here, I believe the scripture talks about some of these folks actually being brothers and not son of son of son of. So it's not that many generations from Joseph and his son Ephraim down to Joshua, because that would take a lot more time, and we know that's not the case here. And so anyway, Joshua was not born with the name Joshua. He was born with the name Hoshea. It was later on that Moses changes his name to Joshua. So he's actually born Hoshea and born about this time. So that is a perfect ending point for where we will pick up next week when Moses is about 40 years old. Oh, by the way, 1488 BC, now 100 years since the events of Job. So we will pick up next time with the events of 40-year-old Moses going down to visit his kinfolk and how that doesn't go so well and what happens from there. So with that, any other thoughts, any other reactions or comments or questions on these things we have considered for our last Sunday school for the adults in February of 2024? All good? All right, appreciate the interaction and comments and questions very much. With that, we will go ahead and stop our screen share, stop our recording, and let's get ready to go before the Lord in praise and worship and